Good afternoon. We are on afternoon? Yes, we are. Good afternoon, everybody. So, as mentioned, my name is Melanie Oldham. I'm CEO and founder of Bob's Business. I've been in the sort of cybersecurity industry now. I was introduced to it in 2004. Prior to that, I didn't have any technical knowledge or capabilities in this area in any way, shape, or form. So, one of the things I'm going to talk to you today is about developing security-conscious culture and workforce, and how actually looking at cybersecurity awareness and education and culture from more of a how do we shift and change perceptions on this rather than it just being a tick box exercise. When I set out a few years ago, I decided that I was going to go down the 27001 and the Cyber Essentials Plus because I had some good contracts that I needed to show that I was a credible provider, but also to tick that box. And my journey of going through 27001 as a business and growing over the last few years, I would say it's been a massive facilitator in helping us to grow, making me more stable, and actually being better for the business. And I want people to have the same feelings with regards to cybersecurity awareness education, is that actually it's something that can really enhance your performance, make you a better business, and make you operate in a better way. So, without further ado, just a little, sorry, going back one. Oops, regards Bob's Business, we'll get this out of the way, because usually when I do a presentation, everybody says, who's Bob? So when I was introduced, I was, like I say, I came from a hospitality background. I was then moved into project management, and the CEO of the organisation came up to me one day and said, have you ever heard of information security? And this was in 2004, and I was like, nope. And he's like, BS 7799. I was like, no. We're going to take you from this office environment with a load of females that's helping people with training, development, and research, and we're going to stick you in an IT team of 13 techies. Holy moly. I just did not know what had hit me. I felt instantly really a little bit insecure, and I thought, okay, I'm quite a confident person. However, you've gone and put me with these uber intelligent people that have far more knowledge and capability, and they speak a different language to me. All these jargons, all these acronyms that I just thought, this is going to be a short-lived relationship. Little did I know that that was actually going to be the launch of my business. So my role within that was to take their techie speak, what they knew, the problems they were having, and the issue with the end users. I quickly learned that when I picked up the phone to say, have you switched it off and switched it back on again? And that was like the first point of call. But I really was quite offended by the fact that they were, and it still happens now, less so, but people calling end users idiots. And saying, actually, those idiots are probably the ones that are generating money that actually pays for you to be there and gives you the job that you do, and all different things. And it's saying, actually, to be successful businesses in today's environment, we have to work collaboratively and cleverly together. Okay. So a little bit about me. So I come from a multidiscipline background. I've had, as I say, it's nearer 15 years in cybersecurity now, and I'm passionate about digital adoption. So this is kind of some of the things that I want people to bear in mind is that this is a personal choice, and it is that we need to look at information awareness around people and what they do in their personal lives. So I've got two kids, and I love Alexa because I can actually listen to my 7-year-old reading me her story whilst I'm unloading the dishwasher between the house, and I'm able to communicate with them and things like that. I also love the fact that I actually gave an Alexa to my Nana for Christmas. And I can actually drop in and say, hi, Nana, how are you doing? And she'll be like, it's great. I've been listening to various different Frank Sinatra, whatever it might be. And she's actually, for the first time, engaging with technology that she was too scared previously. I tried giving her an iPad, and this fear, she couldn't do it. But she can actually ask questions. And it's hilarious looking through what she's asked. I think the fact that she's not managing to she calls her Alicia most of the time, so I think Strictly Come Dancing's got a lot to answer for, but Alicia, when she's getting a bit angry, but we're now getting that Alexa can actually ask me what time it is, what's the weather like, and things that makes her feel like she's suddenly got company in the care home that she is. So I want people to adopt it, but also have the risks. On the other side of that, Alexa's had a habit that because it was connected to my contacts, whenever somebody buys an Alexa, it automatically means that you're connected. It doesn't block by default. You have to block that person. So I get a phone call from an information security consultant saying, did your daughter really mean to try and call me? That fear of, oh my God, what could have happened? And, and it's just certain things that we do, which is adopting technology that is brilliant for us, makes our lives change so much, but can have devastating consequences. And I think turning the personal side is quite important. Also, founder of the Yorkshire Cybersecurity Cluster, and this comes back to, we can't do everything. We are not capable as individuals and businesses of helping everybody do everything. So we've got to work in collaboration to say, actually, you as technical providers, technology providers are really good at what you do. I'm a really good communicator, and I will show you how we can combat crime together, because how quickly we can get that information to you and how quickly you can communicate that back to the end user is what's going to save you in the event of a breach. Okay. So we have one common weakness. What is it? And it's us. And it's the fact that we are humans and we are powered by emotions. And we can't be picked. Some people would argue we can be patched and monitored most definitely, but we can't be fixed in the traditional ways that PCs can. And that's what makes us really quite a unique thing, because we are all a bit different. We all think in slightly different ways. So how do you apply something across the board when people have so many different personality types, are driven by different things and different, emotional responses to things? Trust me, I won't be doing this all the way through. It gets a little bit where you feel like on a roller coaster and marginally sick, but apparently it helps with the engagement side. So when I started doing this slide, it was argued that 90% of breaches were a result of human error, arguably 62. I think it fluctuates. Do we have any more thoughts of evidence around the room as to what percentage of results are attributed to human error?
83.5% of statistics are made up on the spot.
There you are. Okay, brilliant. Okay. Oops, I'm banging against my leg. Apologies. So, why are we the weakest link? Why are we as people the weakest link? Why are we causing all these problems? Is it because we're too busy? We just do not have enough time to implement these controls that have been told? Because they're not technical, they're not difficult. I know I came from a non-technical background into cybersecurity, and to be honest with you, it's do's and don'ts. Why are we not doing it? Is it because we don't have the time to do it? Is it because it doesn't interest us? It's actually, no, it's nothing to do with me. Cybersecurity has nothing to do with me and my role. And therefore, it's that. Is it because we're resistant to change? We don't like change. We like things the way that we like things. And also, no personal connection. It's never going to happen to me. And it's a culmination of all of them. It really, really is. But one thing is, we're still causing these problems. So it's saying, how do we address all these things and get people to pay attention? And it's the same with any awareness and any education on any subject. How do you change people's behaviours? Do they do things out of maliciousness? I've had the absolute opportunity to do something that, to be honest with you, I would rather do than the day job, and that is to work with Cybersecurity Challenge and the Regional Organised Crime Unit, and to work on a workshop with young children aged between 13 and 15 who have had cease and desist orders against them. So they're on that brink where they've been dabbling in something, and potentially they're going down a bad route. And it's saying, why are they going down that route and how do we stop them? So I met a young lad who's 14 years old, and I met his grandmother. Two very, very different individuals, but both having own issues. When he was 13, he managed to hack into the school network, into the financial information, and that in itself was deemed to be really, really wrong. But what he was trying to do was find out what support and help there potentially was for his grandmother. On the other side of that, he also managed to DDoS a website and take it down. But that website was a child pornography website. So again, he was doing things right, but at the ages of 13, 14, should they be responsible for seeing images on child pornography? And just alarm bells in my head, and it just makes me more. I'm passionate about this anyway, that everybody should understand information cybersecurity, but it makes it really real. It really does turn around and say, okay, what triggers make people want to act? And that's made me more determined than ever to say, okay, we need to understand, because from the grandma's perspective, she's turning around and saying, I don't really know what he's doing in his bedroom, doing his thing, and I don't know how to embrace it. And it's like, oh, you have to. It's not optional, you have to, because otherwise we're going to be one sort of pretty much screwed up society. Okay, so it's not generally malicious. So people generally within our organisations do things because they want to do a good job. They circumnavigate our controls because they want to get a response out quickly. They want to send information home because they feel that there's not enough hours in the day to do it. So how do you stop somebody who's trying to do a good thing and their bad behaviours? As I say, they want to do a good job. So how do we engage the disengaged and change their behaviours? Fear. There's an element that fear is actually going to change people's behaviours. And in a way, it raises awareness, but it doesn't change them, because it comes back to what makes us click as people. We, as a general society, we like to be liked, and we do things because we want to do a good job, and we want to be seen as as good in our society as a general rule. And one of the things when you fear somebody is what you're saying is this issue we've got between the IT team who are identifying people that are idiots, people that are stupid, okay? And when you actually turn around and saying this could happen to you and putting the fear side of it, that you will lose your job if you are actually responsible or attributed to having a data breach, all that's going to do is make that individual clam up and build up that communication barrier between IT and end users. And what we need to say is fear is not great. What we need to say is you need to trust me. I need you to trust me, because if you trust me and you have faith in me, then our communication lines are going to be so much clearer and we can act a lot more quickly. So we've done a number of campaigns. We've worked with HMG for the last 3 years doing phishing awareness and education. And the contract, when it came out, was very much about we want to fish people and we want to find out what our problem is. You've got to find out your problem, but what you need to do is you need to take people on a journey. And it's that journey of getting people to understand, connect with their emotions and see why you're doing something. And if you're just going to fish somebody out of the blue, then they have that element of, I'm going to climb up. I don't want to talk. I don't want to share my experiences. And it's about getting rid of that fear and turning around and saying, actually, if we turn around and say, okay, there's a good chance that me, as the owner of this organisation, is going to be phished. I can be. If somebody's determined enough, they can phish me. But how do we reduce that risk? And it's about people understanding and communicating in a language that's common across the board and that people understand. Okay, so this is just in terms of that fear side of it. Most of the employees that we have, they don't have that connection. To me, cybersecurity is a massive, massive fear because it will destroy my business. But when you're working for an organisation, you're not looking at that level. You're looking a lot further down. So how do we, sorry, I flicked through this because I know this too well, so I shouldn't really look at it, but it's how do we change this personality, the fact that we are all different, the fact that we have emotions, how do we change that into a positive and deliver information in a way that end users understand? And if anybody went to Bruce's talk earlier with regards to awareness, behaviour and culture, and it's actually saying there is science behind this, there is really good reason as to why you need to concentrate on emotions of people and what drives them in order to be able to look at the risk-based approach. Okay, so first things first is my advice, and again, I say Bruce touched on this, is marketing. The way that we actually buy things or we attract things is the way that you market to us. And one of the failings that we have within any awareness training of any kind is actually we don't sell it to people. You need to sell it to them and get them to understand why they're doing it. So, not being funny, but as a general rule, IT people and compliance teams are not the best salespeople. You know, I've been doing a lot of GDPR, and I think, to be honest with you, I'm turning into a bit of a bore. And I can see everybody's eyes rolling. So you need to make sure that the people that are trying to sell and market the messages of information security in your organisation are the right people. Are you using your marketing teams, your communication teams, to get those messages across? They're really good translators. If you tell them what it is in a language and ask them to relay it to you, and can they write it up, use those guys to do it. Make sure that it's got a brand, it's got objectives. Everything you do from an awareness campaign should have objectives. If you haven't got objectives, how are you going to know if what you're setting out to do is achievable? And make sure you communicate that across the board. Are you all singing the same hymn sheet? One of my biggest gripes, if I'm honest, from a marketing perspective, is emails that I get sent that look like phishing emails. So emails that have alt tags, image descriptions that are related to a previous campaign, that are sent with shortened links in them. And these are communication and marketing companies that send out information, selling a lot of information security products and services. And I'm looking at it and thinking, I don't even know if this is dodgy or not dodgy. And I think giving those guys an education on campaigns they're sending out is actually a really good way. Because if they can understand how it's perceived as potentially being a phishing email, then they actually can think about how they draft things and how they create things to actually build that element of trust so people are less suspicious about those communications in the first instance. Make it relevant and explain, but making it personal. So align it with values. So what is it within an organisation that is important to people? Is it their personal data? Is it the embarrassment? What would happen in terms of the reputation of the organisation if you had a breach, if things got out? People don't align them enough. They align them to policies that aren't read very often, and they don't align it to personal information. I think that's one of the beauties of GDPR, is it's getting us to look at our personal information. So take those lessons and those messages that are coming out from GDPR and apply them to the messages you're putting in your awareness training. I'll come into social influencing first. The power of the people. And this is one of the failings, again, from cybersecurity awareness training companies, is historically they do blanket approach of e-learning, and it's not necessarily targeted or delivered in a particular way. And they're not using the power of the people behind them. People are actually motivated by other things. It was touched on earlier that actually, if you change your communications in a way that it's not saying to you, if you don't do this, you will get a fine, but you turn around and say, actually, of the whole of the organisation, 80% of people have done it, but you haven't. People are going to do it because they want to do what everybody else is doing. There's a video that unfortunately I couldn't get loaded, and I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's about a test that an American company did where a load of people got into a lift, all actors, and one of them wasn't an actor, and they all turned round, knowing that the doors opened this way, but they all turned round. And by default, the gentleman followed, and he does what everybody else does. So it's, you know, it's saying that you've got to make sure everybody does it and does it in sync. So when you're doing awareness campaigns, do you give people access to an online training to take whenever they want to take, or do you just say, actually, this month we're going to concentrate on passwords and everybody's got to do it, and I'm going to ask people to write blogs about it. Have you ever asked any new employees if they can actually do an audio or a vlog on the policy they've just read? Because it's eye-opening. If they actually interpret it in their own words, and people can understand and relate to it, and it's a really good free way that you can actually get people to get the message across, is if you ask them, okay, can you read this policy and then interpret it in your own words? Tell me, you know, what's the impact if you break it? Why have we got this policy? So on and so forth. Hearing in somebody else's words is really, really effective. The other thing in terms of the power of the people is on a campaign, thinking about how you're pushing that out on internal communications. So again, with HMG, 70,000 employees arguably are going through this training exercise. And there is a process where the awareness materials go out beforehand, they then get sent the phishing emails, and then get led to further training. And one gentleman turned around and said, I've been sent this phishing email, I have clicked on the link, and I've been presented with this training. I don't have time for this rubbish. And one of his colleagues, quite a few of his colleagues out of 70,000, responded with, well, you're the absolute reason why we're doing this. You know, you have actually caused this. Can you not see? And getting to get the feedback from everybody within the organisation, peer-to-peer, is more effective than that top-down. We tend to listen to those people next to us influencing, which is why cyber champions within organisations are really good. It doesn't have to be a technical person, but somebody who's got enough passion to care about it, to influence the rest of the team. Your messages are more likely to get through. Breaking down those barriers. And again, it's about saying, you will not be effective in a breach if you have barriers between your IT and your compliance team and your end users. You will not be able to respond in the event of a breach. And it's more likely to increase your chances of insider threat. Because if you have somebody who feels isolated, who feels that potentially they haven't got that relationship, if something bad goes wrong, that person is more susceptible to being interviewed by press, being interviewed by your competitor, and actually divulging information that's going to get you in so much trouble. And what you need to make sure is that relationship's there. If anybody has a breach or is anybody susceptible, done something wrong, the most important thing you can probably do with them is take them for a coffee. Have that conversation. How do you feel when somebody sits down with you and talks to you and asks you what's going on? That one-to-one level. I can have a number of employees. I pay their salaries. I don't engage with them. They have access to medical care, so on and so forth. Is that going to make them stay with me? Or is it the fact that if I actually spend some time with them and talk to them about the visions of the business, where we're going, are they going to be more bought into it? And are they going to actually want to do more for the organisation? So relationships are a massive, massive key. Sorry, I ought to look at this one, didn't I, rather than more professional in that respect. So the other thing is, which goes back to my original values, which we don't do, and that is keep it really simple. It really is that simple. Don't have any unnecessary information and make it concise, and make sure you reinforce it. And that's where we go wrong with a lot of awareness campaigns, is that we do the one-off hits and we don't continue to reinforce it. And I think it's one of those things to make sure that you're not condescending, you're not patronising people, you're giving them it in a fashion that they can absorb. So are you doing blogs? Are you doing articles? Are you publishing news? And you just having general conversations about it within the organisation. The fun fit theory, has anybody seen this? This is quite, I don't know if ever you have. And that is about how do you get people to buy into things? And again, because we are emotive, because we have these emotions that make us have these bad behaviors, we need to tap into something that's going to actually make us stand up. And unfortunately, cybersecurity as a word is not sexy. It's not interesting to people that aren't in the industry. To me, I find it quite sexy, but then there is also that debate of, is it cybersecurity, is it information security, is it data security? It's all the above, but either which way, that's not usual language that anybody on the floor. There was a poll that was done to say, what do the general population or populace see as cybersecurity? Does anybody actually know what the actual terminology they referred to as what it should be in a e-security? And does any of my marketing material say e-security? E-security, oh my God, I don't know, it's just awful, but apparently that's what the general populace would call it, those people that are outside of the industry. Okay, so I have lost ability to, okay. So in terms of that, a couple of tips that we would give is tell stories. And that's where your collaborative approach with all your employees works. Have you ever asked anybody within your organisation if they've been a victim, or if they've got any family members that have been a victim? And have you tried to sort of push those messages internally? Everybody has. Everybody's got a story to tell. And as a general, people like telling stories. So it's worth pushing that out, because again, it's showing that compassionate side of your business and showing that you can connect with people. And you will find your employees within your organisation were more likely to tap into that and understand it and appreciate it more. Put an element of gamification in there. We are all competitive. As a general rule, we are a competitive bunch. And if you can put an element of competition into the activities that you do, whether that's to ask somebody to write a story about cybersecurity, whether it's to reward certain departments. We did a stint where we gave out, for want of a better word, little gifts, little animated gifts, toys. And does that sell cybersecurity? Yeah, it does, unfortunately. It's a bit like insurance. Do people buy car insurance because they can have a cuddly toy? Yeah, they do. It's gimmicky and it's not great, and cartoons aren't necessarily the most kind of serious, and this is a corporate message way of doing it. But if you're getting people talking about it and you're getting people engaging with it, and actually they're lifting their head up for 10 minutes to listen to a message, is that important? Yes, it is. Okay. So in Sweden, I'll just quickly play this video whilst I'm talking, because I'm conscious of time. In Sweden, what they were trying to do is to try and change people's behaviours. They were trying to make people use the stairs rather than use the escalators. And there's a number of ways you can do this. You can move the escalators. You can make them harder for people to get up. But then obviously you're discriminating against people with disabilities. So what they have actually done is change the approach and look at it in a completely different way. So rather than blocking it off, so how much of for those people that haven't seen it, do we know how much of the population change we managed to change? How many did we get engaged with using the stairs rather than the escalator? Any thoughts? No? Deadly silence. %66%. It's huge. It's huge, just by making it a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit more fun. We come to work because we have to pay bills. But actually, those people that really, really, really do change their behaviours are the ones that actually feel a bit passionate about it. How can you spark the interest in somebody? What made you do something that you wouldn't normally have done? And I think that's just a nice one to think about. How can you make a difference? How can you connect with somebody? Somebody likened it to a first date. How do you attract somebody? How do you make somebody like you? And if you can actually think about what you do, the behaviours you do, as to whether or not that's going to make somebody like you, is that the right approach to take? Or is there another way that you can deliver a message that makes it more attractive? Oops, okay, 66% increase. So overall, I sell e-learning, and it's really bad. It's 8 to 10% of people that aren't sat there with a compliance stick actually complete e-learning. It's a really, really low statistic, so which is great in some way, because I have loads of clients, arguably, not mine, but a lot of e-learning companies have a lot of clients that pay licenses for thousands of organisations, and they only use 8 to 10%, so win-win model. We don't. We get engagement statistics of 80, 90, and it's because we're using those principles of engaging, making storytelling, making it interesting. So increase your engagement, change your behaviours, get people to buy into it, make it relevant and personal to them. So the other thing is standards, but I'll leave that for another presentation because I'm conscious of time. And GDPR is coming up. It's all interesting. So just to finish is if you want to connect with your employees, if you want to change their behaviours, think that you are a person. How do you like to be treated? What makes it of interest to you? If there is a way that you can deliver something in a way that's a little bit more attractive, a little bit more gamified, and use the resources you have available to you. So make sure you use your marketing teams, make sure you use your IT teams and HR teams. How many people have delivered a phishing campaign and not engaged with their HR teams? And it's really, really important because there's a lot of phishing emails that have gone out that actually create sensitivities in an organisation. If you're going to send a phishing email out about company cars and you realise actually that's all just been pulled, what you're creating is an issue where people are like, whoa, I'm in uproar because you're sending me these emails about company cars and you're creating a problem elsewhere, and all you're then doing is actually creating more animosity between the IT teams and the HR because they hate you for what they're doing, you know? And it's thinking about those different teams. How can you use the teams within your organisation to make sure that you're delivering a campaign? So it's that communicate with one another, sit down, work out what your objectives, and remember in everything you do, there is a personal reaction to something. We all have those personal feelings. So does anybody have any questions?
Not so much a question, but so within my organisation, we've taken up a few of these ideas, and we now have cyber monsters,
Yes.
which I've had sat along a corridor near my desk, and the amount of people that just stop and look and read the stories that are attached to them is actually quite impressive. So just thank you.
No, and it is that. It's people love stories, and if they can relate to it and see it and understand it, then it's connecting with that. And we are, by default, we love heroes, we love villains. So always thinking who's the villain in the piece and who's standing to benefit. Because in the same way that we're motivated by wanting to please, they're motivated by greed and anger and all those, and you know, power. And it's getting people to understand actually how do you deal with bullies within the, you know, when you're talking to your kids, how do you deal with a bully? And you stand up to them and you actually understand what their weakness is so that you can combat it. And it's something that we have to combat together. And I think the team element is such a massive part. So if you're doing something that's causing ripples in the rest of the organisation, you've really got to question if what you're doing is productive or counterproductive.